His name is Fernando Della Torre, and he's a member of the Insane Deuce street gang in Aurora. If he looks a little nervous, it's because at this moment he's got 2 hot handguns in a plastic bag, including a 9mm gun used in a Della Torre's plan, as caught on this undercover videotape, is to throw them into the Fox River. Gang member Orlando Rivera can be heard explaining why.
There's no way once you throw it in the water, there's no way they can recover the fingerprints.
You don't see Rivera on camera because he's working with police, helping with the recording. Rivera takes both weapons from Della Torre, but instead of tossing them into the river, hides them on the bank, where police later recover them and trace them back to 2 unsolved shootings.
Just 40 miles west of Chicago, Aurora, Illinois is a small city with a vibrant economy. New housing developments and businesses, including a floating casino moored along the Riverwalk downtown, all seem to promise a bright future. Gangs have arrived here in the heartland, and a few hundred armed, drug-dealing youths are ripping apart this proud, frightened community.
You're under arrest for
8 major gangs are waging war on the streets of Aurora.
I want to see my lawyer.
Defending their hoods, gang signs, and honor.
Shooting shocks in Aurora neighborhood. 1 person is dead, 4 others injured. Police tell CBS 2's Stephen Graves they believe it was not a random act of violence.
Aurora, the Fox River city, nicknamed the City of Lights, grew from a 19th century milling and manufacturing center into one of Illinois' largest suburbs. With landmarks like the Paramount Theater and a lively riverfront scene, the city has produced its share of local talent and civic energy. But lately headlines have been dominated by a string of major gang indictments and violent crime prosecutions. From a multi-year Latin Kings investigation that led to 18 gun and drug felony indictments, to earlier stings such as Operation Try Lambs and Operation Fallen Angel, federal and local task forces have targeted organized drug and weapons networks across Aurora and the western suburbs. High-profile cases and heavy sentences, including multi-decade terms in murders and shootings, and lengthy prison terms for repeat gun offenders, show prosecutors pressing hard to remove violent actors from the streets. These prosecutions matter to the entire Chicago region. They're not just local headlines, they reflect coordinated law enforcement efforts to disrupt trafficking and prevent guns and fentanyl from flowing into nearby communities. Aurora police say a multi-year investigation into Latin Kings activity culminated this week, with 18 people charged on gun and drug felonies. Investigators with the department's Special Operations Group say tips in fall 2019 led them to uncover an extensive trafficking network and recover illegal firearms and narcotics across Aurora, Elgin, Montgomery, and DeKalb. 13 suspects were arrested in the sweep. 2 are already in custody on unrelated charges, and 3 remain at large on Kane County indictments. Court papers allege the defendants identified as members or affiliates of the Latin Kings face a range of counts, including unlawful delivery of controlled substances, possession of firearms by felons or gang members, illegal firearms sales, and weapons offenses involving defaced serial numbers. Police Chief Keith Cross called the operation a major step in Aurora's effort to reduce violent crime and remove illegal guns and drugs from the streets. After nearly 3 years of undercover investigation, a total of 96 felony charges have been filed against 16 gang members from West Suburban Aurora, authorities announced Friday. FBI agents assisted Aurora police in Operation Try Lambs, involving confidential informants inside the Latin King Street gang to set up controlled drug and weapons purchases, according to city spokesman Dan Farelli. 13 guns and 22 were seized. On 10 June 2017, Rodolfo Roca Jr. was fatally shot outside a home on Grove Street after 2 men later identified as Anthony C. Medina and Martin Garcia Jr. approached the group, demanded gang affiliation, and, when Roca said he wasn't a gang member, opened fire. Prosecutors say Medina fired multiple rounds, at least a dozen toward the crowd. Roca met his demise and others were narrowly spared. A Kane County jury convicted Medina in February 2022 of first-degree deletion, armed violence, and related firearm offenses, and in April a judge sentenced him to an aggregate term of 80 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. Officials noted Medina's long history of gang involvement and prior gun convictions, when seeking a heavy sentence, and he is required to serve the sentence in full. Garcia was separately convicted and in 2020 received a 75-year prison term for his role in the slaying. Aurora police arrested two adults, Leatrey Davis and Wesley Harmon, late one night after responding to a tip about a gathering on the city's east side in the 400 block of Melrose Avenue. Officers say several people ran and two were seen tossing handguns, and investigators recovered 3 illegal firearms at the scene. Davis and Harmon were booked on felony counts that include aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a firearm by a street gang member. The juvenile faces multiple weapons charges plus aggravated assault and resisting arrest. According to court records, Davis and Harmon were being held on and 7-figure bail amounts, and the most serious counts carry prison exposure if convicted. Andres Ramirez Jr. was convicted in May 2022 of armed violence, aggravated discharge of a firearm, and unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon after prosecutors showed he stepped onto Jefferson Street in Aurora on 19 March 2020 and fired 8 shots at a marked police car. Rounds struck a nearby house and a parked vehicle, but no one was injured. A Kane County jury found him guilty, and on 27 June 2022, Judge David Clement sentenced Ramirez to 55 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. Prosecutors emphasized that Ramirez committed the offense while on parole for a prior attempted deletion conviction and pointed to his previous firearm offenses and history of gang involvement when urging a lengthy sentence. On 24 May 2017, undercover Aurora officers investigating a string of burglaries pulled into a driveway on Grove Street when Jorge Guzman ran toward the unmarked van, pulled a handgun, and fired at the officers. Those officers returned fire. Guzman pleaded guilty on 27 December 2019 to 2 counts of aggravated discharge of a firearm at a peace officer, and Judge Donald Tegler accepted a 16-year prison term in exchange for the plea. Under Illinois law, Guzman must serve at least 85% of the sentence. He received credit for 948 days already served in the Kane County Jail. Prosecutors emphasized that the case and the heavy sentence reflect the danger posed when gang-affiliated suspects fire at police and the community. On 24 May 2021, Samuel Ortiz Rodriguez was fatally shot in Aurora after 3 alleged gang members went looking for rival gang members. Prosecutors say Ponce pointed out Ortiz Rodriguez and Bello then fired the revolver that deleted him. A Kane County jury convicted Cesar Ponce of first-degree deletion in March 2023, and in late May 2023, a judge sentenced him to 40 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. His bond was revoked after the verdict, and he remained in custody. Fidel Bello later pleaded guilty to first-degree deletion and faces a lengthy prison term as well. Prosecutors said Bello personally fired the weapon, exposing him to additional sentencing enhancement. Authorities described the deletion as a targeted, gang-motivated attack in which an innocent man was mistakenly identified as a rival, and Kane County prosecutors credited cooperating witnesses and thorough investigative work in securing convictions. A 2-year, multi-agency probe called Operation Fallen Angel targeted the Maniac Latin Disciples and culminated in criminal charges against a dozen people for state and federal narcotics offenses tied to distribution in Aurora and nearby communities. According to the FBI and local partners, the investigation used undercover buys and court-authorized phone surveillance, led to arrests on September 26th and 27th, and charged 12 suspects, including Timothy Hill, Marcus Russell, and Vernon Turner, who face federal distribution and conspiracy counts. Armando Gallardo was convicted in December 2013 for 2 counts of attempted first-degree deletion and multiple weapons offenses stemming from a pair of gang-related shootings in Aurora in September 2011. Prosecutors say that on Sept 6, 2011, Gallardo, then a front-seat passenger, climbed into the back seat of a car and fired 3 shots from a .40 caliber semi-automatic at a rival outside a home. Days later, on September 12th, officers chased the same vehicle, during which Gallardo allegedly tossed a loaded handgun. Forensic testing later matched that gun to both shootings. A judge found Gallardo personally discharged the weapon, exposing him to a mandatory 20-year enhancement, and the court ultimately imposed a 30-year prison term. Gallardo remained in custody after his conviction, with bond revoked. His convictions and sentence were later upheld on appeal. Alex Xavier Fuentes pleaded guilty on 2 March 2021 and was sentenced to 30 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections after admitting to multiple gun offenses stemming from a series of incidents in Aurora, including armed violence, possession of a weapon by a felon, and unlawful use of a weapon by a gang member. Prosecutors say the charges arise after an 30th August 2018 incident in which Fuentes allegedly approached a vehicle he believed was occupied by a rival gang member and fired multiple shots. The next day, he was arrested and found in possession of a loaded semi-automatic handgun that he was prohibited from carrying because of a January 2018 felony conviction. Investigators also tied Fuentes to a 19 September 2016 traffic stop incident in which a suspect tossed a loaded semi-automatic handgun while fleeing. In May 2019, Aurora police later confirmed by DNA testing that Fuentes was the person who threw that gun. The indictments and prison sentences we've outlined underline two realities. Law enforcement is using local, county, and federal tools to disrupt organized crime, and courts are handing down substantial penalties for violent and weapons offenses. Still, public safety gains are fragile unless paired with prevention mentoring, job programs, school supports, and robust re-entry services, so communities don't simply cycle new people into the same gangs and crimes. If Aurora can sustain coordinated policing while investing in long-term community solutions, it stands a better chance of protecting neighborhoods and preserving the civic life that gave the city its nickname.